This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Gatorade is the #1 proven electrolyte blend designed to hydrate better than water. So you can lose more sweat and raise your game. Gatorade, is it in you?
This is it really wasn't much of a run at all, was it? Leader Fan Radio Network.
Did you see the game?
KFAN.com. 1 minute and 57 seconds past the hour of 3 o'clock. Central Daylight Saving Time. Welcome back. Monday edition, bumper to bumper program on another extraordinarily warm, borderline steamy weekday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Guardsy produces the show. My name is Dan Barreiro. I'm the host, former Inkstand Wretch, newspaper of the Twin Cities, and we are delighted that you are here to be a part of our festivities today. It's going to be a very fast-moving program this afternoon that includes not one, not two, but three very distinguished guests. Example, Jonny Athletic, bottom of this hour. And even though we associate John with one sport, largely, a professional basketball, my guess is we're going to talk more football with him today.
That is a nice package.
However, there are a couple of, I guess you could say, gossipy angles to pursue with him, including Shaquille O'Neal's ongoing obsession with Rudy Gobert. Did you see who came to Rudy's defense?
I don't think I did.
Kendrick Perkins.
Big perk.
Came to Rudy's defense in that regard. More on that later, a subject you and I explored late last week. In addition to Johnny at 3:30, my old pal, former colleague, Jerry Zgoda, announced yesterday, reminded us yesterday via Twitter, via X, that he's calling it a day. He's calling it a career after 41 years at the Star-Tribune. 41 years in the business. And I think he was covering the golf yesterday, if I'm not mistaken.
He was. That's a nice run.
It's a terrific
41.
run. And he covered a lot of stuff, man. He really did. And a lot of it was covering bad teams. Not going to lie to you. I think he covered one really good team, but that team didn't count, if you'll recall. Wasn't he in? I'm pretty sure he was in on Golden Gopher Final Four year.
Oh, interesting. I don't know if I knew that.
But we'll see. We'll talk to him about that. Maybe I'm mistaken. I associated him with he had two runs with the Timberwolves.
Yep.
And he saw a lot of losses. That's my recollection. But Z, looking back on a very outstanding, distinguished career, I call him Z because I get a good vibe with him. Jerry Zgoda, Star Tribune, wrote his last piece. It's up now. It's via StarTribune.com. And I think he's done. We'll find out what he's way too young to not do anything. So we'll find out what kind of ideas he might have for his future. And at 5:30, another old friend of the program, Kyle Mills, best-selling thriller author, who, of course, has written or wrote, it was either 8 or 9 straight Mitch Rapp novels, taking up that considerable honor from, how often would you say we had our guy in this studio?
Vince Flint?
Vince Flint.
I mean,
bunch of times. Dozens. Now I'd say dozens, but certainly in double figures. Might be dozens.
I would say at least a dozen in the State Fair.
Correct. Still miss Vince every day, and Kyle got the honor of picking up the series. Now now it's in the hands of Don Bentley, who we're going to have on in the next couple weeks as well, because he's got the next rap novel. But Mills said, okay, had my run. Now I'm going to go back to write my stuff. And he's got a new book out. In fact, he's going to be at Once Upon a Crime on Wednesday.
Yes,
correct?
Exactly right.
So we'll talk to Kyle Mills at 5:30 this evening as well. Good guest lineup. We like to say from time to time in sarcastic fashion, it wasn't a bad run. I don't even want to go that far with the 2025 Minnesota Twins. I don't even think it was ever much of a run at all. And now it appears that it's close to over. The first trade shoe has dropped, as many of you may know by now. Your guy, one of your favorite pitchers, you believed in him several times, Chris Paddack.
Yeah.
Not only dealt but dealt within the division. How about that?
A Kwesi-Adolfo-Mensah-like deal.
That's correct. I'm assuming we ain't getting much for him. He's going to provide depth to the Detroit Tigers rotation, they tell me. He has had a moment or two this season, but overall, I always thought there was way too much wishing and hoping and praying in Paddack's case. And a lot of people are assuming that this signals the Twins' surrender, if they didn't already signal it by losing in very undistinguished fashion at Target Field in the rubber game of the series against a pretty crappy team. So is this... Here's the way I look at it. I don't think this at all means automatically that the Twins' so-called big three, right? The two relief pitchers and Joe Ryan are necessarily also going to be dealt. The names that you're going to see go are meaningless, to be honest with you. I just don't think they're that important. But I don't think that should be the signal that, well, they're cleaning, they're basically backing up the truck. They're completely going to unload this entire roster. I don't think we can count on that. The other names that are likely to be dealt now with the Paddack move, again, are all relatively minor, irrelevant players. So we all know the big three are the ones that matter in terms of how far the Twins go in their concession speech. They lost to the Nationals yesterday 7-2. All three series lost since the All-Star break. Remember that period where we all said, well, look at some of the teams you're playing. Yeah. Crappy teams.
That was Lavelle's treatise, right?
That's exactly
his manifesto. That was what it was about.
And they didn't do Lavel much justice because they're a combined 4-5 against three crappy teams. So they've not taken advantage of that opportunity. And now I think the schedule is about to get a little bit more challenging as well.
We were out cell phone in case we make that big trade.
Star Tribune guy reminds me they were outscored 16-5 by a team with the second worst record in the National League over the weekend. And I got to tell you, I don't know how much you watched because I did have it on really more for background purposes. I wasn't watching
it's about the same
closely, but I did have it on. To a large degree, I thought this was at one point a kind of a winnable game, right? Wasn't it? I think it was 2-2 at one point, if I'm not mistaken. And then a pitcher I'd never heard of, in fact, I can't even find his name now, gave up 5 runs. And not only did he give up 5 runs, since giving up 5 runs, he has been demoted. Travis Adams.
You're looking for Travis Adams.
Travis Adams. And there's a part of me, and maybe I haven't been paying enough attention, maybe Travis Adams has been great for us, but I'm thinking to myself, let's see, you're at home, it's an anybody's ball game, and Travis Adams, really? That's how you're going to stake your claim to staying in this race and convincing people that you're really serious about, you know what, we're not giving up until we're out. And to that point, he's now been demoted. So let's stop with the nonsense about, wild card, chip share chance, you get in, whatever the case may be. And now isn't Buxton hurt again?
Could be.
Well, yeah, it's not. I don't think it's necessarily considered serious, but he pulled himself out of the lineup the other night. I think it was the Saturday game. I neglected to mention that yesterday. But, and I believe he was originally listed as day-to-day. I don't know where that's at.
You know my favorite part about the Paddack steam here today?
What's that?
Ken Rosenthal, among others, those that were reporting it. Tigers in serious discussions to acquire Chris Paddack from the Twins for a minor leaguer. Just making that sound... Is there such a thing at this point in a serious discussion about Chris Paddack? No disrespect to Chris Paddack.
It's a contradiction.
He's had a tough run, obviously, with the injuries and everything, and we're all pulling for him.
Are we?
But by definition, I don't think you can classify a Chris Paddack discussion as serious. How intense can that really be?
No. For the record, Adams gave up 4 runs in that 5th inning. And by the way, the managers just kept him out there.
Yeah.
It was weird. The whole thing was strange to me yesterday, but maybe that's... And I got over the weekend, I got a couple more tweets. Well, let's go ahead and give Rocco another contract extension. I'll say again, for about the 5th time, I'm not suggesting that Rocco is going to end up in Cooperstown as a big league manager. Okay, I'm not. I'm not going to say that. but I just don't think that's at the top of my list about what ails this club. And let's be honest. It really, last year was a collapse, right? An utter and complete collapse down the stretch. They were in perfect position to basically thumb their noses at their own organization that didn't even bother to, not only didn't bother to help them out, but also to right-size the payroll going into the season, right? And so I don't know. Again, there's individual moves Rocco makes we can argue about. I just don't think it's a very good team. And it's not his fault that their best starter has been out for an extended period. I don't know how many teams could handle that, even if they were better. It's a flawed team in terms of a lineup, and I think has been, especially when you factor in that, which Royce is it, Lewis or White, who plays third base? Lewis. Has been dreadful, then a little bit better, and then now he's starting to hit a little bit. Correa has been awful through much of the season offensively. I mean, so if this is going to work as a lineup, you have to have your so-called big three, Buxton and those two have to be really good, right? And that just hasn't happened. I just don't think it's that good a club. And I don't even buy, and this is the other thing I didn't buy. The start of the season, this rotation, as good as any in the league. Well, that assumed Bailey Ober was for real. Bailey Ober was great until he wasn't. And when he wasn't, they ended up having to demote him, correct? Now, he's allegedly on the fast track. Maybe he's figured it all out. Maybe he's healthy, knows how to pitch, but nothing about this. Was it a 12? What was the winning streak we had? Was it 12?
I thought it was 13.
Was it 13? That was the time we talked to Rocco on. It was great. It was a great conversation. Whatever it was, is that enough to say it wasn't a bad run? No, I don't. That's all we got. Because that's so long ago that I'm not sure you can hang your hat. I'm not sure I would hang my hat on that, would you?
That was May 17th when they won their last game against Milwaukee.
Is that a little long ago for you?
Yes, a couple of months.
Got all excited? So, again, I'm not in the camp that says, I think you have to consider trading anybody. You have to listen to every offer that's out there. I have no problem with that, including with guys I'd rather not deal, including Joe Ryan. Mm-hmm. I think you have to leave if somebody blows you away, then you'd have to consider it. I wouldn't trade him otherwise. I might trade one of the two bullpen guys. I actually might. On the theory that you can, there's a lot of bullpen guys. They come and they go, and they've actually done a decent job of developing a couple of them. I can actually live with that. But what I can't countenance anymore is any notion that, give this team a chance to figure it out. We've seen it. They've made their statement with the way they've come out of the break. It's over. I say it's over. I never really felt like they were all that in it. But if you want to believe it, at one point they were, they're not anymore. And that, again, doesn't mean you trade everybody recklessly. It just means you acknowledge that that's where we are there. And to me, that's what came off in that game. Even, like I said, who he used in the fifth inning of the ball game, just the way it went out. The whole weekend felt feeble. The whole, because there were a lot of people, if you recall, the stories right before the All-Star break were, we lost that last game that Sunday.
We're playing well, though.
We're playing really well. And everybody was like, we're going to come back. He said, where'd that go? Maybe that's the excuse will be we lost our mojo because we got interrupted
the momentum
by the All-Star break itself.
The other add-on in this Tigers trade, what was your favorite Randy Dobnak moment?
Is that right?
Dobnak is also
he's part of the deal?
Part of this deal, apparently, according to Ken Rosenthal about 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
So Dobnak also heading to the Motor City.
Can't imagine what we're getting back for that treasure trove of talent.
I did see earlier a minor leaguer.
Yeah.
I have not seen that minor leaguer name.
Two? if Dobnak gets thrown in, or is it just we couldn't even get the one unless we threw Dobnak in as well?
Maybe that was the kicker. I don't know.
Bonus bucks time?
No bonus bucks this week.
All right, let's do this. Let's stay on schedule. Prepare for our 3:30 guest, Jonny Athletic. More on the Twins, including your
Gatorade Zero, the #1 proven electrolyte blend, made with zero sugar. Designed to hydrate better than water so you can lose more sweat and push more limits. Gatorade Zero. Is it in you?
Life moves fast. A new home, a new baby, a new chapter. But without an estate plan, your future's still vulnerable. With Trust and Will, you can name guardians, start a trust, create healthcare directives, and more. all online in about an hour. It's attorney-designed, state-specific, and built to protect what you love. Plans start at just $199, and every plan is safe, secure, and kept completely private. From families with young kids to adults caring for aging parents, Trust and Will makes it simple to take control, without a law office, paperwork stress, or court delays. Go to trustandwill.com and use code RADIO to save 20%. Start your plan today. Don't wait for life to force your hand. Estate planning is one of the smartest, most loving things you can do. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Trust and Will.
Texts.
Fan.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Our next 19 games for the Twins are against Boston, Cleveland, Detroit, Kansas City, Yankees, Detroit again. Here are the records of those teams. Yankees, 57-48. Bo Sox, 57-50. Tigers, 61-46. Guardians, 52-53. And Royals, 52-54. We are right now in fourth place. Hard to catch the White Sox, I guess. Fourth place in the American League Central with a record of 50-55.
Frustrating.
White Sox are still buried, although they're better by their standards. They're 38-68. That's quite an improvement for them.
It is.
A year ago. I think, well, I tell you though, with our schedule, if we collapse, I guess it's possible. So, that's why this stretch that included Colorado and Washington was supposed to be, okay, here's when you take advantage. And we've not done that. So, in any case, it's probably over. For the record, the player we got in return, the minor leaguer, is a catcher named Enrique Jimenez.
Okay. Switch hitter, I think.
Switch hitting catcher, I believe. Which is pretty interesting. Losing Paddack does not leave me with the same feelings of days gone by when Jack Morris left after helping us win a title, or Johan Santana winning multiple Cy Youngs. I would think that would be well stated.
It's a little different.
I think it's not quite on the same level, that's for sure. I've got two texts here. One says this catcher we got in the Paddack deal is the number 12 prospect in their system. Somebody else says it's the 17th in the system. And I got to tell you something. My ball guy card was revoked decades ago. So
I was never issued one.
You're right. You never even got in.
I couldn't even get one.
You didn't even get close to it. And I understand that. I'm fine with that. But somewhere along the line, we all accepted this hogwash that these sorts of ratings and rankings mean anything. We went from attempting to just sort of, okay, here's a hire, one of their most highly regarded prospects, to we're going to literally put a number to all of them. It's stupid. And it's what I think gives people a false impression about what you're getting. Because, let's be honest, they're making it up as they go along. The analytics might give you a little something to play with, or you might go with, okay, well, these are the top 5 magazines and prospectuses that do this thing, and this is the number we'll come up with. But when you're talking about this many players, seriously, it's just, the number is, to me, the evil part, because people take the number seriously. As opposed to, here's sort of their top-tier prospects, and here's the next. To pretend that we know this guy's 16 or 19 or 12 or 25, it's all made up. And what happened is it got repeated so often that people started believing it. Not because there was any validity to it, but just because, well, it's a neat way to try to quantify these things, right? It sounds cool to say, well, they got 2 top 50 prospects or whatever the case may be.
It's kept Baseball America in business for decades.
It actually has, and I just think it's so much more subjective than that. And every time we get the caution, you know what? Being a top 100, chances still are you're going to fail. And then you're at that point going, well, then what does it matter? I mean, why do we believe in this stuff? Because it's been pounded into the heads of the ball guys month after month, day after day, week after week, and year after year. So believe me, if I'm still working when Enrique Jimenez premieres at Target Field and he's outstanding.
Could be electric.
I will eat my words. I will apologize on 100,000 watt radio. Or by then, I'm sure I'll be on some podcast and I'll do it there.
Maybe he can be on the Bell's podcast that he mentions every week. That Ball Guy podcast.
Is he actually doing one?
He only brings it up every week.
Oh, that's right. He does, doesn't he?
Much to our boss's chagrin.
Yeah. Is he acknowledging it's over, Johnny?
I haven't seen it, but I haven't talked to him since Vegas or since Friday.
Is he still there?
I think he's back. I think he was coming back yesterday.
Dan, I'd be ecstatic if the Twins are able to dump Correa and Royce Lewis. Well, they're not going to be able to dump Correa. No trade. I don't know if Royce has one.
Probably not.
Correa's not going anywhere. Yeah, would it be great? But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Twins can sell off a lot of parts without trading any of the big three. I was hoping and surprised they could find a deal for Paddack. Him being the first to go tells me guys like Bader. Yes, Bader's, I think, likely to go. Brock Stewart and Danny, is it pronounced Kalum, I think, and Castro are all goners. Again, there's no harm in trading them. And sometimes you end up with somebody who's better than advertised. So I have no problem with that, but you just can't put much faith and hope that because of what, the little that these players, and even in theory, are going to bring back in the other direction, that you're going to really give yourself the best chance to replenish your supply of talent and really get this thing headed in a better direction.
Royce Lewis has 3 years left of arbitration and is currently making $1.6 million. Yeah. They are not trading Royce Lewis.
No, I don't think they are. And so, because you say, well, he's been a relative bust, but he's in an expensive bust. And so how much are you even going to get for him at this point, A, and B, you're probably better off playing the thing out. Although I do think it's time for us to probably have the come to Jesus moment that he's not going to be the franchise cornerstone player.
He's not Kirby Puckett
that a lot of people thought that he might be. Will we talk any baseball with another guy who's gotten his ball guy card revoked? I don't know. But I do know we'll talk some football with Jonny Athletic. We'll admonish him for not yet being out to TCO Performance Center, although I think he's coming soon. We're going to be back out there tomorrow. And there'll maybe be a little bit of other stuff, including the ongoing obsession Shaquille O'Neal has with Rudy Gobert in our discussion with Jonny Athletic. That's
Gatorade is the #1 proven electrolyte blend designed to hydrate better than water. So you can lose more sweat and raise your game. Gatorade, is it in you?
Life moves fast. A new home, a new baby, a new chapter. But without an estate plan, your future's still vulnerable. With Trust and Will, you can name guardians, start a trust, create healthcare directives, and more. All online in about an hour. It's attorney-designed, state-specific, and built to protect what you love. Plans start at just $199, and every plan is safe, secure, and kept completely private. From families with young kids to adults caring for aging parents, Trust and Will makes it simple to take control, without a law office, paperwork stress, or court delays. Go to trustandwill.com and use code RADIO to save 20%. Start your plan today. Don't wait for life to force your hand. Estate planning is one of the smartest, most loving things you can do. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Trust and Will. Man.
It's time for Jonny Athletic. Jonny Athletic. Jonny Athletic. And he's on with Dan Barreiro right now.
It is indeed that time again. Jonny Athletic joining us here about halfway through the 3 o'clock hour of the program. Jerry Zagota at about 4:30. And as I mentioned, Kyle Mills, best-selling writer. He's got a new book out of his own, separate from the Mitch Rapp series. He's coming, in fact, to town to hang out at Once Upon a Crime Wednesday night. He will join at 5:30. John, speaking of books, it occurs to me that you might well be next on the list when it comes to ink-stained wretches. Well, in your case, it's not ink-stained because you work for a website, but it's the same concept to me. In spirit, I think you consider yourself ink-stained, nevertheless. Because once upon a time, it was Associated Press, and that ends up in a lot of newspapers. But I digress. There's got to be, what's going to be the first big Jonny Athletic book? Not, special report, not athletic treatise that goes on for, 5,000 words. I mean a book.
Yeah, it's a good question, Dan, because I do think that is going to be something eventually I want to do. I have been sort of deliberate in deciding that there's a bunch of, we've seen those books of like 100 notable things in Timberwolves lore, all these kind of different smaller books that are good in quality and people have a good time writing them and reading them. They get it consumed, but I've really been trying to like find exactly the right subject.
Sure,
and I mean, I'm sure it's going to be NBA Timberwolves sort of related, but I want to pick the right thing and I want it to be kind of hefty. So I don't have it yet. It's something I'm always looking for and trying to think about, but at some point, sometime I will do it. It's just, I got to make sure it's right. It's hard right now for book sales and things of that nature. Anything that's not Lakers, Knicks, like big market things. So, I want to do something Timberwolves related, but I want it to be something that can grab an audience at large. And so the search is on for that.
Well,
for sure.
As you well know, former Gopher coach Glenn Mason continues to prod me to write his book. And he has also said, if I'm not going to write his book, then by definition, I'll be writing fiction because that's all I do anyway. And there's probably people who say you might be better off writing fiction as well. You know how that goes.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I have certainly been accused of that as well in the past. And so you could say I had some experience with it. So I'll have to check it out. But I would read a Barreiro penned Mace reflection. Like I read a Mace in Your Face book for sure.
Yeah, we're negotiating kind of, but we're not because I don't think we could stand each other. That's a lot of time to spend together, to be honest.
Can I write the book about you guys writing that book?
Yeah.
That might be a good, at least short story for sure.
Or do like the Beatles documentary style where we put cameras in there while you're going through it.
Yeah, that's not a bad thought.
And then have a little mini series.
Then you have a series to go along with it.
How about an autobiography, Jonny Athletic? The title is I Don't Do Clickbait.
There you go.
Would that be the title?
That would be it.
I Don't Do Clickbait?
Yes, that would be. I like it. Something like that would be along the lines. I really like to do some navel gazing right now.
Sure.
So, let's. But how about this? How about a KFAN?
Oh God.
Anthology like that. I mean, now you're talking about some real stories.
There would be.
You guys would be so cooperative.
That's the issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
The unauthorized version would be pretty remarkable. There's no question about that. All right. Where do we want? I want to start with some football. I do have some. Well, actually, you know what? I will ask this basketball question to get it out of the way. Mm-hmm. So I saw an item out of Chicago that the Bulls have announced a new contract extension and allegedly raise, I think, with Billy Donovan. And the stories have indicated that part of the impetus was that the Knicks came calling on several coaches who had head coaches who had jobs, including Billy Donovan, and that was part of the trigger. So is that going to be, we're all waiting, I think, for the announcement on a contract extension involving Finchie. So how close are we? What's the latest on that? And was he going to get a bump anyway? Or is it automatic that if somebody comes calling, the team is obligated to, I'll throw in an extra, $200,000 or an extra $350 into the deal because you're in demand?
Yeah, no, it's a little different for the NBA than, say, college, Dan, where like the Patinos of the world have their schools over a barrel. And so anytime, anyone even looks their direction, they get 5 extra years and a bunch of extra money and all that. It seems like contracts are very, very flexible and only just kind of ideas and suggestions rather than actual legal documents. In the NBA, they're much more kind of ironclad. And I also do think that in general, kind of the owners talk to each other and usually don't kind of mess around with each other's coaches, kind of out of a matter of decorum for the most part. Jim Dolan has never been really concerned about decorum when it comes to being an owner in the league. And so they kind of went around and they did ruffle some feathers and with some teams I talked to in Las Vegas about, they're doing all this and now they're forcing me to have these conversations with my coach and revisit and things like that. And so there were some teams that were unhappy. The Wolves were not one of those. Finch signed a contract extension before the last playoffs, not these playoffs, but the last one. And so he's under contract for a while yet. The one that we're all watching for, Dan, is Tim Connolly. We're still waiting for any kind of official word about that coming down. Again, both sides have said that they're going to get it done. And maybe because it's dragged on as long as it has, it kind of shows that neither side is really worried about it. But until, kind of like Kwesi Duffel-Mensah, until it's done, it's not done.
Yeah.
And so we continue to watch it. But Finch is under a contract for, I believe it's 3 more years at least. So he's kind of locked in for a little while.
So we shouldn't have to mess with that. That should not be an issue. Yeah, I tend to.
Nope.
That was my hope. I think Donovan was coming up on his last year anyway. But I don't know. There's just this. It starts to bug me how automatic agents think. Well, then you better do something. They call. It's like, well, no, you're under contract to us. It's not a promotion. You're a head coach here. They're asking you to be a head coach there. So no, I mean we're working through this now. Obviously, if the Bulls struggle, he might get fired anyway and say, well, you fired him. It's like, well, but that's sort of the nature of the way this business goes. All right, Len, might as well get the other basketball question out of the way, even though it is more clickbaity. As you probably know, Shaq, maybe out of boredom, maybe trying to just do the bit, went off again on Rudy to the point where now even folks like Kendrick Perkins are weighing in and hammering Shaquille for his view on this thing. So is there anybody you think that can intercede? Who knows Shaq well enough to say, why? What are you doing here? And here's my bigger question. This is what slays me about all of this. We make the assumption that too many people who watch the game are way too obsessed with viral moments, as opposed to evaluating and understanding the game, at least beyond that, to say, well, what's a winning play? Because a winning play can be a viral play, but it's often not. It's often more boring than that. And a lot of what Rudy does is boring. It doesn't show up always with a block shot. But we assume that the players themselves get that they have some nuance to how they evaluate. So why has that message eluded Shaquille O'Neal to the degree that he's talking about Rudy yet again in the middle of July or late in July?
Yeah, I honestly really believe, Dan, that it just simply comes down to the amount of money that Rudy has made in his career compared to what Shaq made in his career, and that Rudy is much more limited offensively than Shaq was. Shaq was maybe however you want to rank him, the third best center in history, maybe behind Kareem and Bill Russell. That's what we're talking about. You maybe put Wilt in there. Depends on what your flavor is, but Shaq was so dominant and so skilled, and he made a lot of money. Shaq made a lot of money in the NBA, but I think that he sees the simple fact that Rudy has made more than him just from this contract than Shaq did, and when he is much more limited offensively, it's just that simple. That how can a guy who doesn't score as much as I did, who doesn't dominate offensively like I did, make this much money? And really, Shaquille does not watch games, even if you listen to him as an analyst. He can make some good points here and there, but it's never inside basketball. It's never breaking down a play and diagramming and seeing. It's always, this guy has to be more dominant. That guy has to be more dominant. And it's very kind of, it's surface level stuff. And so it comes off, I frankly believe, as petty and bitter and not really lending any intelligence to the greater conversation. I mean, Rudy got paid what he got paid because of the era that he is playing in, and because he is a generational defender. Like, that's just...
Well, let me ask you this.
There's no disputing that.
I'm looking at Shaq's yearly salaries. In 2004, he made, this was the most, that year was the most he ever made. He made $27,696,430. Now, put that in today's dollars. I mean, that's part of, that's why I'm stunned that he doesn't even get that part of it. And I'll tell you another thing. He's almost, when he stays going down this road, do we really, look, he was a dominant player, right? But do we really want to talk about the last 3 or 4 years of his career, about being out of shape? Because you can make the argument that Shaquille in those years, he made, look at 2000, he won his last title in 2005. Miami made $20 million, Phoenix 20, Phoenix 21, Cleveland 21 million, $20 million a year. I mean, I just think this is, I wish somebody with stature would say, and Kendrick's maybe a start, but somebody else would just say, do we really want to play this game, Shaquille? We know you're obviously a much more dominant player in general and offensively. He also wasn't always a great defensive player either. So I just, the whole thing is just so bizarre. Nobody's, have any denial about Rudy, right? His limitations offensively are obvious, but I just don't understand why. It just seems like he's asking for people to go, really, Shaq? Do you really want to open this can of worms? Because we can, because there's a lot of things we could say, including the fact that Kobe, how exasperated Kobe was because he wouldn't stay in shape.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing. If Rudy wanted to have a real conversation with him, or certainly Rudy backers wanted to have a rebuttal to Shaq, Rudy has gotten everything possible out of the physical gifts that he was given. He has made himself from a player who really was a long-term project when he was drafted and acquired by the Jazz, and that no one really thought a whole lot about the long-term potential. And he has, through sheer work ethic, dedication, diet, nutrition, all of those things, and studying the game, has turned himself into one of the best defensive players of all time. And with Shaq, who was, kind of lucked into this amazing combination of physical prowess and athletic grace and all of those things. He certainly worked hard to make himself into the dominant player. But you could say that he left a little on the table as his career went on, and he did not dedicate himself, and he could have been even greater had he really given everything that he had and dedicated himself the way that Rudy has. And so, there's a real easy rebuttal there. Now, no one is arguing that Shaq or that Rudy is anywhere close to Shaq on the hierarchy of players, but the one thing that you have to respect about Rudy is the amount of effort and energy and dedication and commitment he has put into making himself as good as possible and staying in great shape and still being, in fact, we'll see how he ages, but like right now, it looks like he's in good shape to still play 4 or 5 more years and still be effective because of how seriously he takes this.
Yeah, another thing worth noting in Rudy's case, and I'm not trying to get in his will by any means, because I get frustrated by some of the limitations offensively as much as anybody, but I'm looking at, he played 72 games last year, 76 the year before that, 70, which these days is a lot compared, what you have around you. 66, 71, 68, 81. He's been a pretty damn durable player as well. All right, we'll leave that to the side. We did have an interesting conversation, was it 2 weeks ago, with Tom Crean. And he obviously had spent a lot of time in the Summer League, like you. And he flat out said, when it comes to Dillingham, he's not giving up on him at all. But he said, if you're asking me whether he can make the kind of jump this coming season to be the answer to complement or supplement even Mike Conley, he said, I don't see it. I think it's going to take longer than that. Do you think the team agrees with that? Or do you agree with that? I just thought it was, Crean is very supportive of the team because of his relationship, obviously, with Anthony Edwards. But I appreciated his honesty there, because he doesn't mind complimenting, but he also doesn't mind saying, well, not yet. I don't think it's there yet. I don't think there's enough efficiency there at all. Do you agree with that? How do you think the Wolves feel about that in terms of this upcoming season?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say I absolutely understand it. I certainly am not going to look at Tom Crean and say, where are you getting this from? This is completely, off base. I do believe that those concerns or that evaluation is valid. We need to see more from Rob Dillingham and his ability to get his own shot off, to score at the rim, to be at least enough of pest defensively where he's not a complete liability. There are a lot of questions that he has to answer. I do believe that what the Timberwolves think when it comes to Rob Dillingham is that in order for him to start answering those questions, he's going to have to play. And we're going to have to throw him into the deep end. And maybe there are going to be nights where he struggles, but we're not going to learn a ton more about him if he's spending most of these games watching from the bench or playing in Iowa. Yep. And so I think that is what they are prepared to do, is give him that opportunity. I think he has real fans in the building, Tim Connolly, number one at the front of that list in terms of believing in what he can do. But what they want to do is give him that chance to prove them right or wrong. And that's what's going to happen this season. And, if they have to bring in another veteran, if they have to make a trade midseason, if it's not working out, I think they will do that. But they're going to make sure that Rob Dillingham gets that chance before they make any final determinations on that.
Johnny, are the Vikings obligated to give J.J. McCarthy some preseason game run before the regular season? I
guess I hesitate to say obligated because I just know how teams operate in the preseason now, and Kevin O'Connell is one of them. And I can see him saying, hey, we have all of these joint practices, and that's where we're going to use to get a really good look at JJ and let him get reps and get comfortable. And we don't really need to put him out there in the preseason games and expose him to injury and all of those other things. I mean, I could see them saying that, and I could see a million other teams doing the same thing with relatively inexperienced quarterbacks. I just keep going back, Dan, to thinking about the way Childress handled Forrest Jackson early on in his career, and giving him that same sort of veteran benefit of the doubt. Like, you're not going to play much in the preseason because we want you with the starters, and you've done enough in practice to show us you're ready. And guess what? He wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And maybe it's apples and oranges, but I would like to see JJ McCarthy out there. He doesn't have to play every game, all game, but getting some reps, getting some continuity with his weapons, but also with his offensive line, and having some live bullets going toward him before night one, Monday night in Chicago. I would feel a little queasy if we did not see much from him at all in the preseason, and then you're throwing him out there in that environment to kick off his essentially rookie season on a team loaded with talent all over the place. Give him as many opportunities as he can to get as ready as possible for that.
I don't disagree with that. I think if you look at their preseason schedule, what's actually most logical is that you play them in the first game a bit at home. And if you get decent success, that might be it, because the second game, I believe, is New England, and that's the team you will have been scrimmaging with, where he's obviously going to get heavy work. The third game is meaningless most of the time. So my bet is they play him in the opener, at least some. If he's fine, then maybe that's it. If he struggles a bit, maybe you consider giving him a little bit more time. But I'll be surprised if we don't see some time out there for him. Now, the challenge is, well, who else? What other does that mean? If you're going to put him out there, you want some other starters with him, right? I think you almost do. Yeah. And then there's that question. Well, then is that where you're asking for trouble because you got some starters who are really well established? We're all assuming Jefferson's not going to. In fact, he's already said. I think the head coach already said Jefferson's not going to play at all in the preseason, right. And this was even before this pulled muscle, slightly pulled muscle he's dealing with there. But I tend to agree with you that you're going to need to see a little something out there. Will it be the difference between being successful or unsuccessful Monday night in Chicago? I don't know, but I do think that probably makes some sense.
Yeah, and like I know these joint practices certainly have changed the dynamics of preparation, and I've seen them, I've been there for them. They do get live, they do get after it in those practices. But do you know what? The quarterback is still wearing a red jersey, and he's still not getting hit.
Yeah,
and that's a different mentality than when you go into a game knowing that if you don't do the right things, or you're going to get smacked in the back by somebody that weighs 280 pounds. And so I just think that there is a step up even from the live practices to a real game. And for a player who has had precious little of that experience, I would like to see it a little bit. I do understand concerns about injuries, not only to him, but to other starters. And you want to surround him with your entire number one offense and all of those things. But even if he's playing with some backups, the other team isn't going to be playing their main guys. Lawrence Taylor isn't out there lining up to rush the passer in week one of the preseason. So there's give and take there. And I just think that if you can give him some experience where the guys who are running after you are going to try to tackle you and going to try to hit you, I think that just adds a little bit to him to get him a little bit more ready for the regular season starting under the bright lights of Monday Night Football.
Do you want the Twins to trade everybody? They've already begun trading, you could say, lower level guys who aren't at the top of their list in terms of talented players. Chris Paddack dealt along with, is it Dobnak, Guardsy tells me, for a young, apparently up and coming, of course, with it and wow, switch hitting catcher. But the key question, obviously, is do you go all the way with it? Do you strongly consider trading your more attractive players, which of course would include Joe Ryan and the two guys out of the bullpen as well?
So, I wouldn't like to. I don't want to see Joe Ryan go. I just think this organization has had a hard time finding really good young arms, and so when you get guys like that that are established and are proven that they can really do something, as soon as you trade him, you're immediately going to be trying to find another one. And those guys are just so hard to find that I think that they should hold on to Ryan. The bullpen guys, I think they are more replaceable. So if you can get decent assets for some of those guys, I'm not adverse to letting them go. But a guy like Joe Ryan, man, is just like, that's gold. And I just don't think that you need to be in a rush to get it done. I don't think he wants to go, really. And, I know he's 29 years old, but just keep him around. Like, if you move him, then, like, what are we even doing? Like, I have questions about what they're doing in general. I mean, it just seems to be a team that is falling off the face of the earth right now. But you want to give fans and you want to give the organization, you want to give Byron Buxton reason to believe that there's still going to be stuff coming around the corner rather than going into a full rebuild for the next 2 to 3 years, trying to Houston Astros this thing. If that's not the case, hold on to these guys and keep going, and then try and spend a little bit of money and sell the team and find some real leadership and get going that way. But I'd hold on to Joe Ryan.
Thank you for the time, as always. We will we'll see you at the State Fair, if not sooner.
Can't wait, Dan. Thanks.
Thank you. That is John Krasinski. Jonny Athletic is what we also affectionately recall him. Lots of texts have come in, a bunch of texts coming in on a number of subjects that we've explored early, including some bitterness on any criticism via this show on Shaquille O'Neal going after Rudy Gobert to the degree that he says he hates him. He hates him. So we'll get into some of that. We'll prepare for our 4:30 guest as well, Jerry Zgoda, wrapping up a 41-year run as an ink-stained wretch, former teammate of mine at the Star-Tribune. That's at 4:30. And we'll get literary. Talk Kyle Mills at 5:30. He's coming to town. We'll talk about his new book.
Gatorade Zero, the #1 proven electrolyte blend, made with zero sugar. Designed to hydrate better than water so you can lose more sweat and push more limits. Gatorade Zero. Is it in you?